Oh dear. Hi all, Ross here, Thomas Classic and Modern. Welcome back to the channel. Short little video today for you, following on with Project Tom, but a little bit of a separate video. Hope you've seen our previous video now where we've made the custom bushes for these radius arms to get rid of the two roller bearings that were either end. If you haven't, be sure to check that out. But today's video is now going to be the reaming procedure of the new bushes. This procedure is exactly the same regardless of what we've done, as in if you've just fitted a radius arm kit that comes out of the packet to your radius arms, this is the procedure and the tooling that you're going to need to get that done correctly. So I will just show you exactly what we use to do it and we'll crack on. Okay, so we are very fortunate to work closely with AC Dodd, and we have his excellent radius arm reaming kit. We've got the full kit, comes with various different size bushes for different applications, early arms, possible to do it by just doing the bush, so that will fit in the bearing on the one end, and this one is the one that we tend to use the most, so we tend to do it without any of the bearings or the grease tube in the arm. So I will show you how this system works. This is the sized radius arm cutter, so this is custom made by AC. The cutter itself is an off-the-shelf cutter to the correct size, and the manual then is beautifully made by AC, and it works an absolute treat. The other thing that it also comes with is it comes with this lovely little high-quality flat wheel, which can be used to just linish the bush should you need it to get the size in right. Sometimes you do get a little bit of a discrepancy in the bush or the size of the bore that the bush is going in. They do close up slightly, but we find that this works absolutely spot on. So, how do we use it? So, we already have our bush in the radius arm, which you've seen now in a previous video. The grease tube is removed, and this is now ready to accept the bearing. However, we are not going to fit the bearing just at this minute. We want to concentrate on reaming out the bush at the bottom. So we need to take our sizing bush that drops in there, and that's a lovely fit in there. It's size on size pretty much, so that allows us to know that that is now parallel right the way through that arm to the bottom of that bush. So when we drop in the cutter with that bush attached, that is now resting on the bush that's in the bottom, perfectly parallel. This is the simplest bit of kit for using reaming radius arms that I have ever used. I must be perfectly honest. That is it. That is ready to cut. What we then do is place our massive tapping handle on there. You don't need loads of leverage, but this makes the job very easy. And start to cut, little bit of downward pressure, not pushing it through, letting the cutter find its way, and you will feel that cutting. You can probably hear it as well. Just gradually work that through. This one is slightly different because this has our custom bushes in it. So this radius arm cutter is actually cutting quite a bit of meat out of that bush. But once it gets started, it should cut all the way through without too much bother. And when you're using a reamer, not telling you to suck eggs, you are not tapping a thread, so you do not go backwards. You only ever run a reamer in the clockwise direction, or obviously the direction of its cut. Just make sure that as you come through, you don't let the reamer drop out of the bush at the other end. And perhaps you can just see that now. That has just come through. That's turning in there. Then keeping going in a clockwise direction, I just pull the cutter back up. And that, in theory, is that. That should now be reamed to the correct size for a radius arm shaft. Let's have a look. If I can line it up. Not quite by the feel of it. That's probably due to the fact that that is a custom bush. So what I shall do is just put the tool back in and we just run it through again. Let it take a little bit more out. What we will do with this one is we will just tease it out a touch. In fairness, this radius arm cutter has done an awful lot of work, so it is probably due for retirement and we're due for a new one. Lovely. There we go. Took a fair bit of linish in that one. In all honesty, my cutter is well past its best now. I think that cutter's done probably, I'd be probably underestimating if I said that cutter has done 25 sets of radius arms. So I am due a new cutter. Still works, it just means that obviously you've got to do a bit more linishing. Whereas when that cutter is brand new, they are pretty much size on size, they're perfect. But that's great in there now, that's absolutely lovely. That's a nice snug fit. I'm not forcing that through at all. You don't need them, you cannot have these that you're knocking them in and this, that and the other. They have to be free and able to turn. That's part of the reason that we cut the grease path in these custom bushes. So that's absolutely fine. What we will now do, spin this over. We'll get the grease tube in situ, get the bearing in situ, and then we'll check that that shaft goes back through properly. That's that out of the way. Grease tube itself is tapered, has to go in that way. So small end into the big end, which is where the bearing goes. I have forgotten to fit these before in the past, but that just pushes down in there, out of the way. I get my fingers in that. Push that all the way in. Just like so. And then we get our new bearing that comes with the kit. You can pull these in if you want to using the threaded bar, the same as we did with the bush. However, we have got an old radius arm pin that we've cut off and put the washer on. That slides in there, and then we use this then as a tool to tap that in. What I do like to do with these bushes, with these bearings, is they seem to have an open end and a closed end. I like to put the open end in first, only because that open end then can get more grease up into that bearing. You can still get grease in if you put it the other way around, but there is a leading edge on there as well, which helps it locate. I have seen these fitted the other way around, but I like them flat, square end out towards this washer. Yeah, which then, as we might be able to see, there is a small gap then around the shaft, which means that the grease can get up inside there. That can then be knocked home. Just make sure it's nice and square. Tone change indicates that that washer is up against the arm, and that bearing is now snugly in there, nice and level. And that's where it needs to be. Just put a little squirt of my aftershave on there. I used to like WD-40, but GT85's taken over for me now, I must be honest. And slide this back through. Grease nipple, obviously, outside end where the bush is. And that then goes through the bearing. Now, as you can see, it's a snug fit through the bearing. If I'm perfectly honest, that is a little bit tight still in this bush end. So I'm going to do a little bit more linishing on that end to make sure that this rotates freely. But it is perfectly parallel. It's gone straight through there. No problem with that whatsoever. But I'm going to linish a little bit more out of that bush end before this gets final fitted. I'm going to do exactly the same with the other one now. And then we'll come back and see them fully fitted and finished off. So I've just cut in here after that little bit of time lapse. You may have noticed that that radius arm pin went in there absolutely lovely straight after the reamer. So I then thought, I'll try the other pin in there, and it didn't fit. So what I've actually found, and this is why, again, part of the doing anything on these cars at the moment, you have to check everything. Our one radius arm pin that was tight in the other, which we had to spend a while linishing the bush to make it a nice fit, measures 813 thou. See if I can get you the right way around. Be okay for Australian people, but 813, 812 and a half thou that radius arm pin is. This one that we have just tried in here is all of 2 thou, if I can get it right, all of 2 thou smaller. And that is all it takes. 2 thou is realistically the running clearance on any bearing. So that is why that is such a nice fit in there, and I haven't linished it. That is straight from the reaming tool. So again, part of the reason that AC supplies the little linishing flat wheel is for that reason. Because obviously the reamer will only cut to a size. If these pins are different sizes, no go. So I'm quite glad actually that that cropped up in the video, because it's another evidence of proof you've got to check everything. We used to do this with an adjustable reamer for that reason, but in all honesty, time-wise, it took us ages to set the adjustable reamer up, and we were still having to linish them out, etc, etc. But 9 times out of 10, these pins are a standard size within a few thou, but that will be the reason why we just had to linish the other one out. So I'm going to box on. That is now a lovely fit in there, no linishing required. I'm going to box on and get the bearing fitted. Okay, so we've just finally linished this bush. This is the tight one that we had earlier. So hopefully now this one is all okay. Nice slide-in fit through the bearing. Wipe my hands. And that should turn freely in there. Bearing in mind there's absolutely no lubrication on that at all. They will all be greased. I've just put a little bit of GT85 on there. That's lovely. That is exactly what we want to see. Nice free and easy turning, and absolutely minimal play in the bronze bush at the end. So that is how we use the AC Dodd Radius arm reaming tool. Fantastic bit of kit. They are not cheap tools. Good tools never are cheap. I would highly recommend it, certainly to anybody that does any volume of this sort of work, radius arm pinning. Perhaps you could get clubbed together as a club if you're doing your own maintenance and so on and so forth. Perhaps get the club to buy one, charge a rental fee. But for us now, that means that these radius arms for Project Tom are rescued. These can now be stripped off. We'll give them a coat of paint. I'm going to get the knuckle joint boot seats out of it because it's going to have new knuckle joints anyway. We'll get these cleaned up, and hopefully we'll see you on the next video now where we build these radius arms back into our cleaned off and painted subframe. So as always, please give us a like and subscribe. Hope you're enjoying the videos this far. Hope you enjoyed this little short one, and we'll see you on the next one. Take it easy.